What's up? This is Beau Burchell. I've got the Bullet for My Valentine tracks in front of me for the May 2018 Nail the Mix. And today I'm going to show you how to fit 808s and bass drops into an already dense rock mix. Let's jump into it. So here's what I've got so far. Cool. Sounds pretty good. Here's how I got there. First up, I think, actually, before we get into that, I think we have to talk about what an 808 is, what it's doing, and what it's competing with, because that's going to tell us how to fit it in. So let's just take a listen to this 808 raw, what it sounds like without the stuff I did to it, and we can assess it a little bit. Here's what this thing sounds like. You know, it's got kind of a point on it, and you can see that as it decays, as the frequencies and the pitch drop all the way down towards the end, you can see this big roll off that it has here right around 40 hertz. I think it starts to die. Yeah, so a pretty steep curve falling off the edge there. And when you combine that with people's speakers rolling off around 60, 50, 40 hertz, it's going to be an even steeper drop off. So this bass drop that you have supposed to be going, most people are only going to hear that as, and then it's going to die for the whole rest of the length. That's not going to be able to be heard. So what I want to do is give this a much more even decay and have it be more even as it drops off down the spectrum here. So first things first, we'll throw some L1 on it to kind of get rid of that initial spike. Even though it's not really a big spike, I just want to mellow it out a little bit more. Here's what that sounds like. That definitely helps a lot. You can still hear some of that attack. One thing that I do like that it's doing is it's adding some extra kind of modulation to it. You know, you'll be able to hear that a little bit more on a small stereo. So it's that extra little bit that it's adding. But something that I like to do with the 808s is to give it a little fade here. Let's just say 50 milliseconds or so. And if we go up to our kick drum here, you can see that what that's going to do is, if this was our 808 track right here, we're fading that down so that it gets out of the way of the kick drum, which is going to be great because now you don't have two really strong low frequency sounds happening right at the same time, which it'll allow us to hear the kick drum a little bit better too, and then you hear the length of the 808, which is going to be nice. Let's actually just listen to that real quick. And you can hear that it's... Actually, I'm going to go a little more on this. Come on. My keyboard is acting weird on me. Okay, so here we go. Let's listen to this now. That's pretty nice. I'm going to go maybe like 100. And if you're ever looking about your fades, you can notice that as I'm making these things, it automatically selects here, so you can see how long your fades are. That's just kind of a cool little tip, just if you didn't know that. Let me listen to this now. Yeah, that's cooler. I think that'll let that kick sit nicely. So the next thing I did is it still has a little bit of a drop off, so I'm going to add some automation. Here is what I did for the automation. You can kind of see this drawing as it decays. I brought it up to make sure that it's heard all the way through. Let's listen to that. Oh, by the way, this plugin here, I'm not sure if I already said this or not, but this is on my main 2-bus left and right out, so you can see in case you can't hear any of this stuff going on. So here's what that kind of looks like also. way better all the way down, you know, down to like 15 hertz now, which is great. So now that we've got it out of the way of the kick drum, what I'm going to do is try to get it out of the way of the bass now, because obviously that's, you know, that 60-ish area is a big bass. You know, bass lives down there, and I love to get really deep bass to really get subs moving. So we got to get it out of the way of that. So what I'm going to do is use a plugin called Track Spacer. And the way that Track Spacer works is it is kind of like a multi-band dynamic, or it's actually not a multi-band, it's just a single band dynamic EQ, but it responds only off of what's being fed to it via the sidechain. So what I'll do here is I have this signal generator here that we can hear. Right? Now if we open up Track Spacer and assign this to bus 1, which is our key input here, you can see that as I move this down, it follows it. So it's ducking only that frequency. And as I get higher, it'll stop reacting. That's because I have this set to around 150 hertz, whereas if I went up, this would follow it all the way. So technically, for those of you guys that don't have Soothe, this could be kind of a different way to attack some other issues if you felt the need. This is a cool plugin. So anyways, I like using this on bass for issues like this. Kick drum is cool to sidechain to this if you need something like that, but it works really good for these bass drop type things. So I'm gonna get rid of that. We do not want that affecting it. We only want our bass drop affecting this. So this is kind of what this does. If we listen to our bass drop again, you can see it'll react here. You see as it goes down. So that's exactly what we want. Now, I'm going to show you the bass without Track Spacer. Now here it is with Track Spacer. But you can hear how that sub-low just gets ducted just a little bit as it goes in there, and then without it. And that very small, subtle difference is enough to really make a difference in your overall mix. So what I've got here is now I generally have my high-pass sidechain on my 2-bus compressor. But to illustrate this, I wanted to show you that even if I take my high-pass sidechain off, this really isn't going to touch my compression. So as this starts, and you can see it here. It's got about a half dB maybe. Nothing crazy, and that's with no high-pass sidechain in. So without it, it's totally gone. And that's exactly what you want. You don't want these big 808s pumping your 2-bus mix. Here it is again. Oh, you know, and I think it's wise to mention one more thing, which is you're probably asking yourself, why did you use Track Spacer instead of a multi-band compressor? So let me just show you that real quick. If we were to pull up, I'm just going to say a Pro MB. We'll look at this. Now I'll take, let's just say everything down from 100, put the side chain to bus 1, external, and we'll see what this does here. So you can see on here even that the way that this is reacting, it's compressing this whole area, even though this sub-bass is only affecting, let's just say 40 hertz, it's still compressing everything up to 100 hertz. And here's what it sounds like on the bass. And then all of a sudden the subs are back. So to me, that's a much more audible thing that's happening. And I don't like that. I want the bass to be full. I want everything to be huge and not cut out for that, you know? So I want to be very specific about the little bit of frequencies that I'm cutting out, which is why I think something like Track Spacer is much more superior in this application. Thanks for watching. See ya.